Welcome everybody to our Sueur City Council meeting dated May 8, 2023. At this time we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, but first we must call the meeting order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council members, you were all presented with tonight's agenda earlier in the weekend and had a chance to look at it electronically and physically. I would like also bear in mind the agenda you're looking at. It contains the consent agenda and the regular agenda. This time I would entertain a motion to accept both of those the way they are.
So moved.
Thank you, Council Member Swanberg, seconded by Council Member Williams. Any discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Agenda has been approved. Moving on to presentations. Tonight we are going to hear from Ridgeview Hospital, some representatives from Ridgeview. I will have our City Administrator, Mr. Roby, introduce them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we have the privilege of welcoming 3 representatives from Ridgeview Sueur Medical Center. For the folks in the audience and council members, Councilmember Williams, Mayor Kirby, and I had the chance a few weeks ago now to sit down with Ben Nielsen, who serves as COO of Ridgeview Medical Center, and Stacy Lee, who serves as Vice President of the Critical Access Hospitals, Sueur and Arlington. And one of the things we talked about that time was an update for the council and public. I think in the pre-COVID days of the Ridgeview and City of Sueur relationship, there were some more regular presentations between the two groups. And Ridgeview offered to come forward to a city council meeting and have a conversation in the public about what's new, what's on the horizon, strategic plan, things like that. So I'm happy to invite them tonight. I think we're going to kick things off with Bob Broder, who serves as the president of the Ridgeview Sueur Medical Center local board.
Good evening. I know you all, so Bob Broder, and I'm the chair of the board of directors for the Ridgeview Sueur Medical Facility. Also am the chair for the committee of the Ridgeview Foundation. I want to begin first by thanking you for this opportunity to be able to meet with you, and because we feel this is a very important part of our community, and also that you should be aware of it. First thing is the Taste, Tunes, and Taps in Sueur. That was held last Friday evening, and it was such that, excuse me, a week before that, it was a fantastic experience. It was held at the Inspired Technical Building, and we were able to raise a little bit over $25,000 that night, which will be used to buy some EKG emergency equipment. Also, then these 2 pumps, as they are Lucas machines. They're the cardiac, like we normally have done in the past. It does it automatically, which is fantastic. And I haven't seen how they're ever been used, and I hope never to see how they are used, at least when I'm the candidate. Also, then want to mention as related to our board. Our board is such that we are a community advisory board. We meet in person 5 times a year. During those other months, it is such that we get all the financial and anything that has to be voted on will be done electronically, per se. One of the members of our board is a representative from the city of Sueur, that would be Pam Williams. And we also meet once a year with the other 2 boards of the Ridgeview system, which is Arlington and Waconia. And that's basically how we function and helped oversee the operation. At this time, the person who looks at that operation on a daily basis, I call upon Stacy Lee.
Well, good afternoon. It's fun to see some familiar faces, and I guess I'm seeing a few new ones. So I'm Stacey Lee. I've been with Ridgeview now just over a year. I've had a busy, fast-paced first year. We've had a lot going on at the Sueur campus, so we appreciate this time. We know we were given this time slot, so we're trying to keep it kind of high level. So I'm just going to dig right into it. A couple of the updates we wanted to include tonight was looking at some of our highlights over the past year and some of our new services. So in Sueur specifically, we've had a couple of great things going on. We implemented telecritical care in partnership with Alina, and that helps us provide 24/7 consultants to our providers in our ED, to our hospitalists. It helps coordinate care for transfers. So it's been a really great thing for us out in Sueur. Coming out of COVID, our ER visits, our urgent care visits we have a lot of utilization with those. The stats continue to increase, so we're providing access in our community, which is what we all want for healthcare. We've had also a significant increase in what we call transitional care days. So transitional care, sometimes it's known as skilled swing bed days. We are a critical access hospital here in Sueur. So what that means is we can provide an extra layer of care for people who are recovering from an acute stay. So if somebody had, let's say, a hip surgery, or if somebody had pneumonia and they needed to be in an acute setting for 3 days, they can come out here and recover for the rest of their time. So we've actually seen almost a triple increase in our TCU skilled swing bed program, which has been really great. A couple other things is we're super proud of our nursing home, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but we have become a 5-star nursing home this year, and it's been really great. The staff's been working super hard. Challenges are great in nursing homes, and all you have to do is watch the news or open up the paper and you'll see that. And we are not exempt from those challenges. However, there's still a lot of really great work being done, a lot of long-term residents, and we've been seeing more and more short-term rehab residents. Another item is we've expanded our primary care in our clinic. Now I'm gonna let Ben, when he talks about providers, kind of highlight that, but we've doubled it and now we're up to 2. So that's pretty great for and the visits continue to increase. So that means people are getting back in for their preventative visits. We want to encourage that. We don't get them when they're well, we get them when they're sick, and that's a higher cost of care. Lastly, well, I should not say lastly, because I have a couple more things. But we did complete our community health needs assessment in December this year. We're required to do that every 3 years. And so we have that posted right on our website for all communities members to see. We did hold focus groups. Joe was part of it. I think, Sean, were you out with our group too? Our focus group? Okay. We had some members from the city, members from the community, and some business owners along with our board, a few of our board members, and we created or held a focus group here in Sueur. We used what came from that focus group to help create our community health needs assessment, which is posted. If you go out and look at our community health needs assessment, we have the exact comments or findings that we had from our focus group here in Sueur, and it's kind of interesting. You might want to do that if you have a chance. A couple new service lines that we have been bringing. Twin City Orthopedics has been having an outreach clinic right on the Sueur campus. So it's been great for those ortho procedures. Hips, knees, provides access out here for those consult appointments. Another thing that's coming back to the Sueur campus in June is we've been working with the Sueur Eye Care Clinic and have gotten an ophthalmologist back out here. So I understand there were 8 people waiting for those cataract surgeries in our community that we can house now right away the first day. Maybe we spread that into 2 days, but so we're pretty excited about that. It's been great to work with some of the local businesses, and the Sueur Eye Care Clinic has been really good to work with. Okay, a couple other things that are hitting on our bullets are our overall financial health. So we just wanted to also focus on, as a system for Ridgeview, we were one of the few larger systems that actually made a positive operating margin. And that's a big deal right now with everything going on. It's a combination of a lot of different things coming into play, but at Sueur, we also ended with a positive operating margin. We ended with positive net cash flow from operations. Our net assets increased from the prior year, and our operating margin again was positive. So we have really good things going on in Sueur. we're encouraging our community support of our Ridgeview Lesueur campus so we can continue those positive operating margins and continue to do the things that are being worked on. Next item was on May 16th, we have our real estate closing with the city. So we've been working on that for the past couple of months, and Joe's been pretty heavily involved with that. So we're going to be paying off our debt and exercising our option to purchase the building. So I think everything's in place and we're ready to go for that. As you may have heard, which I know that both Joe and Pam and Sean are well aware, but we have made the decision to transfer our nursing home operations to Sueur of Lesueur on June 5th. So that's right around the corner. It's in a month. This is part of what we're doing to ensure that we keep healthcare services in our community. We want to keep long-term care services in our community. We want them connected to our campus. We provide a lot of services back and forth, and this is one way for us to do it. We vetted out 2 different organizations, but we had significant operating losses and very much difficulty trying to recruit staff, which you can see all the nursing homes that are closing, and that's one thing we did not want to do was close the nursing home. We have a lot of referrals for our care center. We want our community members to be able to age in place instead of go out of their community. And this is one way we think we'll be able to do that. So that's happening on June 5th, and we're pretty excited about that. The partnership is really great. We partner with TCO for ortho needs. We partner with MHI for cardiac needs. We're wanting to partner with Sueur for our long-term care needs. So it's no different than a lot of other things. We are not closing our nursing home. The last thing I'll mention before I turn it over to Ben is we are in the process now of working on strategic planning as a system. We're going to be doing that this fall. But in particular, one really great piece of news is we applied for a grant this year that funds partial funding for strategic planning for the Lesueur campus. So we need to do both strategic planning as well as this master facility planning. We do have a bit of an aging plant. If you drive by the Lesueur campus, we've done a lot of great things to try to keep it up, but a lot of it you can't see, infrastructure and things like that. So we have some things that need to do. One particular is a pharmacy remodel that needs to happen to be in compliance, but we also have some HVAC systems and building automation systems that need to be updated, and they're past their life. So those are things that are coming. So that being said, did I take more than 5 minutes? I probably did. We are each allocated 5 minutes. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben Nielsen, our COO.
Thanks again for having us this evening. I'll maybe talk quicker to try to get caught up. But just quick introductions. I work with our admin team up in Waconia primarily, but support probably 13 of our communities that we provide services in, and been at Ridgeview for about 13 years. So maybe just piggybacking quickly on the strategic plan and maybe closing out our current strategic plan. One of the big projects for Ridgeview as a system right now is our Orthopedic Institute project in Chaska, where we're building 6 new ORs and 20 new inpatient beds. So that Chaska property actually will become a hospital as we do this. And mainly why I kind of speak to that one strategic project we're working on, it ties a little bit to the bond financing that I think was discussed at a previous meeting. So, our finance guys went to the city of Chaska to identify options to get, for the most part, lower interest rate as interest rates have gone up. So I think they're working pretty closely with Chaska through all those details, and I probably won't be able to help answer questions specific to the financing side of it, but within that, Ridgeview have Waconia, Delano, and Sueur as other cities that are going through this process to pass through. And as we look at our capital project over the next 12 to 24 months, we have anywhere from $750,000 to $1,000 to $1 million of projects that we're working on. Unfortunately, none of the projects are like big and exciting. We're not expanding our building. It's one big project is electrical infrastructure. We're investing in a emergency generator. So, just those 2 projects are $600,000 themselves. So I just wanted to quickly make that comment, and happy to take some questions too if there's additional questions. Medical providers. So over the last probably 5 years, we've seen a little bit of a transition with our medical providers in the Sueur. As Stacy mentioned, we opened the Ridgeview Clinic and with Dr. Jeff Alto, internal medicine doc, that's been a great addition to the campus. Lives in Mankato, practiced at Mankato Clinic for a number of years. And then probably the last dozen years or so, he's been a hospitalist up at Abbott. So he's happy and excited to be closer to home and has worked quite well in that clinic with Tiffany Gordon, the nurse practitioner that we all also have in that clinic. And as Stacy said, we, are really trying to push to build their practice from a patient standpoint. The more patients they're able to take care of, our hope is that those patients can be cared for locally here in the community. And then from the Ridgeview specialty side, the more patients they have, the more we can bring specialties to our local community. The emergency physicians and providers, that's been a great, strong team. And a lot of those providers have probably worked there for a number of years, but over the last few years have transitioned to be part of, it's called MPAC. It's a physician group that Ridgeview works very closely with for our 4 emergency departments in Waconia, Shasta, Arlington, and Sueur. So it's been able to create more consistency, a little bit more of a deeper bench from a provider standpoint. And as Stacy mentioned, we have some telecarts where if a provider in the Sueur has a question on a patient, they can connect with the docs up in Waconia to help with that patient care. And the hospitalist, so part of the increase with our inpatient census has been supported by our hospitalists. So healthcare is like everything else, it's becoming more and more specialized, where 15, 20 years ago, we could have a local community physician that will be your primary care doc, they'll be your ER doc, and they'll also be your hospital doc. And right or wrong, I think there's pros and cons to the model now. It's very specialized. So now we have clinic docs, we have ER docs that are separate, and then now we have hospitalists as well. They're all specialized from a quality standpoint, I think it's a good thing, but now you also have 3 different providers doing something that, one might have done in the community 15 years ago. So our hospitalists, we have 15, 20 hospitalists through the system, and they work 7 on, 7 off. So on a Monday, we'll have a provider come down to Arlington, the Sueur, and see those patients for that whole week. It provides more continuity of care. And that probably has also allowed us to kind of see that census go up because it's hospitals providers that are comfortable taking care of those patients in the community. And then ambulance, probably the last update on the ambulance. Mark Anderson, who I work with closely and runs our ambulance program, I think is pretty close to the ambulance service in the Sueur. Things are solid and, volumes have gone up. He was surprised when he ran the 2022 numbers that the run volumes have gone up. Response times are still just a bit over 9 minutes, which I think compared to a lot of the other markets and national standards, that's a pretty good turnaround time or response time. So I talked quick to try to get us back on track, but.
What do you mean by that?
Not blaming anybody. Questions that, myself, Stacy, or Bob can answer?
On a personal note, I just want to say I for council members who didn't know, I was put on the hospital board when I joined the council in 2018. So I served with these people for 4 years. I really enjoyed my time on the hospital board. And I just want to let you know it's having a campus like yours in the Sueur is a very, very big asset for a community. And healthcare drives what a lot of people do in the community. And we just enjoy the partnership we have with Ridgeview. So thank you for everything you do. So, and I was replaced at the beginning of the year, of course, most council members know, by Councilmember Williams. So she is on the board now. Thank you.
Stacy, I just had a question about the community health needs assessment. Could you have Lindsay send me the location where it is on the website? I tried looking for it and I couldn't find it. Yeah. I know there's a lot on the website, so
There is.
it'd be a challenge to get to the exactly number, but if she could do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and you could forward it out as needed too, but we'll get that link to you tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
So that's the easy question.
Any other questions from the council? Again, I want to thank you too for coming over here and spending time with us tonight. Bob Rutter, thank you for your input on the board, and I want to wish you all well as you move ahead with our community here.
Thank you guys too.
Thank you.
Give us the time to connect.
Yep, and anytime you'd like us to come, just let us know. But yeah, we'll for sure keep these annual meetings where we do an annual update, maybe 15, 20 minutes. But
We'd be delighted to have you back.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Moving on, council members, to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda considered routine have been made available to the city council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of the items unless the council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence. Mr. Roby, do you want to review these with us, please?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Mayor and members of council, 6 items on tonight's consent agenda. First of all is approval of city council meeting minutes from the April 24th, 2023 meeting. Second, review police chief update for the month of April 2023. And at the end, when I'm giving my summary here, if it's all right with you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to invite Chief Tiki up just to share a little bit of how this update came to be and his plans going forward with sharing this update monthly with council. Item C, approved disbursements through today, May 8th, 2023. Included in those disbursements are 3 items over $25,000. The first is to MMPA, care of Avant Energy, for our purchase power for the month of April, $476,881.52. The second to B&B Transformer for a 1500 series PAD RM transformer, $46,000. And finally, to Neo Water Treatment for FX300 wastewater material, $30,589.75. Item D, approve insurance requirements for our pole attachment agreements. Those are for when we co-locate services on an electric pole that the city owns. There's insurance that is companies are required to maintain. Item E, approve 2023 liquor license renewals. And item F, a personnel action. This is a part-time fitness instructor that we'd like to bring on board to offer some additional classes when our other instructors are busy doing other things. This will allow us to provide silver sneakers classes, ideally maybe an afternoon session, maybe an evening session, to reach a greater audience. I'll take any questions, of course, but again, item B, I'll invite Chief Tiki forward quickly. And Aaron and I talked about this a little bit, just providing council with a monthly update on what's going on in the police department, what types of calls they're seeing. And so what we'd like to do is every month put this in front of council on the consent agenda, just for council to review and accept the report. And then if there's anything of note, of course, Chief Tiki can always take questions. But anything else you'd like to add, Chief Tiki?
Yeah, well, I've been in my position as the police chief for just about 14 months now, and I've kind of settled in a little bit more as I've survived the first year, and I've learned a lot of things in the last year. One of the things I thought would be good would be to just get a little more face time with you guys here on the city council, be as transparent as I can be, so you're aware of what the police department is doing. As part of that, I've kind of talked with other area chiefs and been to some administrative trainings and got some examples of how other communities and how other chiefs are doing that. And this was just kind of a way that I felt I could share information with you, so you were aware of what's happening in the community, what the police department is doing. And if you have any other questions or concerns, you can bring them to me directly that way, and just keep each other informed. So I'm assuming you have the report in front of you here that we made for the month of April. You can see we had a total of 435 incidents in April. I would say that's pretty average for the early spring. Certainly as we go into summer and ramp things up, that number tends to go up quite a bit. I've kind of broken them all down by category there, ranging from simple public assist, child protection investigations, DUI investigations. Are there any questions about each individual category there? They're pretty self-explanatory, but if you have questions about what any of them mean, certainly go ahead and ask them by any means. Key dispositions that we've had this month is we had 182 people that we either assisted, advised, or warned, and that could cover a traffic warning, an ordinance violation warning, advising someone on how they should proceed for filing a harassment restraining order or an order for protection or something like that. We have 37 citations issued. That includes 31 citations for traffic offenses and then 6 citations for other offenses other than traffic citations. So that would be for disorderly conduct, or it could be for a 5th-degree misdemeanor assault, things like that. Offenses that are not arrestable, don't require a long form complaint, but just a simple tap charge or a simple citation. Usually lower level misdemeanor offenses. And then you can see we had 14 people arrested and or charged with gross misdemeanor or felony or arrestable misdemeanor offenses. I kind of broke this down by day of the week just so you could see we're pretty even across the board for the most part as far as days of the week go, with the only exception being Sunday. It is substantially slower on Sunday, and that's pretty normal. Always has been, and that's kind of a lucky thing. But usually I will note that the calls that we do end up taking on Sunday usually are more substantial calls, you know, a more involved domestic or DUI incident or something like that. Personnel matters, we had Officer Billy Madsen, who began his full-time employment on March 15th. He's completed his field training and now he's on solo patrol, so he's working solo on his own as an independent officer, which has been great for getting our schedule filled, make it a little bit easier on some of the regular patrol guys who are now able to take some much needed time off after the kind of staffing challenges we've seen over the last year to keep our schedule filled. Sergeant Sines, as you know, was promoted to sergeant and sworn in at the last council meeting. He began his new role on the 1st. So as part of that, we have 2 interview rooms in the police department. We use one as our primary interview room. Other one is kind of secondary. It doesn't get a ton of use. And the best fit for that room that we saw would be to convert that to a second sergeant's office. So that Sergeant Sines can have an office of his own where he can conduct his daily business and investigations. So in order to do that, we are purchasing and outfitting that room with the necessary computer equipment and software. We have posted a job opening for our remaining full-time police officer position that we have open since that sergeant's position was an internal promotion. We do actually, as of today, have 6 applicants for that position, which is good. I would like to see a few more, and we're going to leave that posting open until that is filled. We do have some interviews scheduled for Monday and Tuesday of next week, and we'll kind of base our judgment call off of those interviews. If we find a candidate that we're interested in and want to proceed to a background investigation, we'll do that. If we aren't happy with any of the candidates, we'll leave it open and continue looking for the right candidate. So in order to fill our schedule, because we're still down that 1 full-time officer, we do still utilize 2 part-time officers for coverage needs. One is a full-time officer for the New Ulm Police Department and works here part-time, maybe 2 shifts a month, and the other one, this is his only employment while he finishes his school, so he has a little bit, more availability to fill in those shifts as we need him to. For training, I attended the Minnesota Police Chiefs Association Annual Chiefs Conference in Duluth on April 11th through the 14th. That was a really good training opportunity to network with some other chiefs. A lot of good presenters on things ranging from cold case DNA, homicide investigations to just investigating complaints, internal affairs investigations. But I think the biggest thing you can take away from an event like that, as a lot of you know, is just the networking and getting to know the other professionals that are in the same position as you are, and kind of building those relationships so you can rely on them. We had 3 officers that attended our EVOC training in April. That's emergency vehicle operations. We do that at the Minnesota Highway Safety Research Center up in St. Cloud. That's a post-mandated training that every officer has to complete every 5 years in order to maintain their post license. So we're kind of on a cycle where we send about 2 to 3 officers per year to that training. Officer Luke Friedstrom, he attended handgun range instructor training last week, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago. That will allow him to be our mandated, post-mandated firearms training instructor for all the officers here at the Sueur Police Department. I had previously done that for the last 12-ish years. I'm going to relinquish that role and let him take that, let Officer Friedstrom take that role over, just because I just have a little too much on my plate to continue to be the training officer for our department. So he's taking that over. We currently do all of our firearms training out at the Caribou Gun Club, which has worked out really well versus up until just 2 years ago, we were shooting out at the airport in that range at the in the field that shoots right at the runway that we're at. At the airport. So that was no longer ideal for training in 20 plus police training. So we moved to the Caribou Gun Club just to be a little bit safer. We do utilize online training that through the League of Minnesota Cities. It's called Patrol Online to help us save on costs and training, where the officers can do a lot of their training during their shifts. During downtimes, they can just log on and do online in-service trainings that are required by the post board. And then there's quite a few other trainings above and beyond that they can keep current on legislation and laws and policies and things like that. Equipment that we've ordered that was on the capital improvements list for 2023, we have ordered that ballistic shield, just like everything else that was on extreme back order. I've been talking with the supplier, and hopefully sometime in May here, we'll actually get that shield and we can start training with that. We did receive our 3 Alex Pro rifles to place in our squad cars. Again, before we can deploy those rifles, we have to have an instructor that's trained in utilizing those rifles. So Officer Friedstrom is going to attend that training this week, actually, and then once he's done with that, we can do our department-wide training and get those rifles deployed in the cars. We have all of the equipment ready to go, just need the training before we can deploy those rifles. We did purchase 2 new Glock 17 handguns, so we could equip our newly hired officers with our standard firearm that each officer is issued when they're employed by the Sueur Police Department. We had to add 1 additional Axon body camera to our body camera fleet, so all officers will have their body cameras while they're working that are individually assigned to them. We did order that 2023 squad car last fall, and Ford is way behind in production. That I just was in contact with fleet services this week, and they're telling me that the car still doesn't have a build date, but they're seeing orders being filled typically in August and September from the previous year. So we're hoping to get that car by August. I was kind of hoping we would have it before Giant Days, but I don't know if that will happen. But that's okay. We still have our 3 operational squad cars, so we're doing all right there. We do have a plan to, we have a 2020 squad car whose lease expires in October, and we do have a plan to purchase that vehicle, buy the lease out on it, because of that was kind of a COVID year car, and the miles were kept pretty low on it. So the option for us to buy that out, it works out pretty well for us, because we're going to get a car with less than 50,000 miles on it that I think will last us for at least the midterm and help with the shortages that other agencies are experiencing ordering the squad cars. And then the radio equipment that we've ordered, so the order has been placed through Alpha Wireless to purchase the new radios that have the encryption capability that's going to be required by the VCA. Those will hopefully also be here sometime around August. Production is slow on those as well due to the microchips that are installed in them. And we're just awaiting the grant money for them as well that we have been, it's been solidified. We know we're going to get it. We're just waiting for it to come. As we progress in the spring here, we start to do more active nuisance ordinance enforcement and abatement. What I'm talking about is the derelict vehicles that you see parked in people's front yards or driveways, the trash that was kind of hid by the snow through the winter. We had multiple roofs collapse because of the heavy snow on some of the abandoned houses that we have in town here. So we've addressed and beginning to address, and we'll more aggressively enforce that. So if you want to share that with your constituents, that we will be pretty aggressively and actively enforcing those ordinance violations. And we do that because having an aesthetically pleasing city, it's proven to deter crime, right? You have that neighborhoods that slowly start to deteriorate because of derelict vehicles, because of garbage in the yard. It decreases the quality of life. It's contagious in a way where if one resident is able to do it, all of a sudden his neighbor starts to care less, and it just kind of expands through an entire neighborhood. So we try to be as aggressive as we can with that nuisance enforcement. So if you want to share that, that would be great. We are seeing pretty good compliance with that once we get notices and make contact with property owners. Overall, they are very compliant, and we appreciate that because our goal in that enforcement is voluntary compliance. We don't want to see it where we have to bring it to council hearings and start giving administrative fines or even charging people with crimes for nuisance violations. We'd much rather have voluntary compliance when it comes to those issues. Also, with the improved weather, we see a lot more kids, on foot, walking to school, biking to school. So we try to do a lot more traffic enforcement in and around the school this time of the year. And we do more traffic enforcement in general as the weather gets nice and there is more and more traffic. And people tend to pick up their speed. So we had prom this last weekend, which went well. We didn't have any reported issues that stemmed from prom. And we also had that citywide cleanup, which was really widely utilized. And I think we got rid of a lot of unnecessary junk this weekend, which is great for everybody. That's a really good event that the city provides for the citizens. And then just a quick update, I'm sure a lot of you have heard, but previous officer, Officer Mike Pell, passed away last Wednesday. And he was an officer here from November of 2020 until August of 2022, when he was forced to an early retirement due to an aggressive brain tumor. He succumbed to that tumor on Wednesday and passed away. His visitation is in Laconia on Wednesday from 4 to 7, and then there's a funeral in Alexandria on Thursday at 1 p.m. to honor Mike and his service. And myself and for sure one, maybe two of the other officers will be attending that funeral to honor Mike. So that's the report I have for you this month. As we move forward with this report, I hope to kind of expand on it a little bit. If there's some things that you're certain information you might be looking for or might be curious about, feel free to reach out to me and I can provide what I can provide. Understand that there are sensitive things and information that I cannot publicly provide to you, but I certainly will try to be as transparent as statutes allow me to be. So if you have any questions, go ahead.
Thank you, Chief Kiki. Anybody?
I just have one question on abbreviations, HRO.
Sure. Yep. That would be HRO is a harassment restraining order. OFP is an order for protection, and DANCO is a domestic abuse no contact order. So that would be when somebody is a victim of domestic abuse, or if they're being harassed by a person that they have a relationship with in their life, they're allowed to file those court orders in court. Once they're served, we are bound to enforce them.
Mr. Sullivan.
Chief, I have one quick question. What's your intent with the two part-timers that you have left once the position? Are you gonna keep them?
I think in this climate, we'd be a fool to let them go. I do know that the one that works full-time for New Ulm, he's kind of staying on as a favor to me to help us out when we need it. So I think that if I were to say, hey, you can hang it up, he probably would do that. The other one, he's currently in college to get his 4-year degree in law enforcement. So I kind of look at that as if timing works out, we're kind of cultivating him for maybe a potential full-time position. He does a good job, and I think it would suit us well to try to keep him around if we can. If in the event we had somebody resign or move on to a different agency, it would be an officer that we could potentially have step right in and fill that vacancy. So my intent is to maybe not use as many hours for coverage, but they'd still be handy to use for large events, firemen's dances, giant days, anything where we might need an extra body. And also if we do have multiple officers that take off in one day and we need to fill for a PTO or sick calls, we could still utilize them for that. We just would not need to rely on that part-time as heavily anymore once we have a full-time police department.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Just a quick one. Yes.
Security check.
Yeah, so those would range from anywhere from snowbirds that go south for the winter and leave their home vacant. They'll register with us and say, I'm leaving November 1st, I'll be back on April 1st. We try, obviously that's as time allows, but we try to do regular checks on those houses. We also do checks at the hospital if they have an issue at the hospital, we try to go through there pretty regularly. We do checks at the high school, the elementary school. We'll stop in at Holiday at night and make sure that the individual that's working overnight by themselves at the only gas station that's open within 20+ mile radius is okay. And we'll do park checks. So all of those fall into that category. Anytime we're getting out of the car, making an effort to make sure that a building, facility, home is secure, and having officers just document that. and report forms so that we know we're getting those things done.
Anybody else?
I would just like to add one quick thing, which is, and I appreciate Chief Tiki explaining the hiring process. So we do have the open position, as he mentioned. We have 6 applicants right now. I would like to call attention to the fact that he has 6 applicants and would love to have 2 or 3 more. When there are agencies around here who are grateful to get 2 applicants. So I think that's a testament to the work that the city's done, the work that Chief Tiki has done to support our local police department and build a culture and an environment where officers are inclined to want to work. Their services, they get 1 applicant over the course of 9 to 12 months, or 9 to 12 months, and are grateful for that 1. We can be a little bit choosier when it comes to the hiring process, and it would be great to have 2 or 3 more applicants, but given the environment, that's really, really good. So kudos to Chief Tiki.
Thank you, Chief Tiki.
Thank you.
We appreciate your report.
Thank you.
Circling back to the consent agenda. Any other questions for our city administrator? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I have one question on the part-time fitness instructor. Is that something that was planned for, budgeted for, or something that just came up?
It's something that's been in the process, in the long-term planning process for the community center. It's known that there's a certain percentage of the population who would prefer to do fitness classes beyond weekday mornings, for example. And the interest level at this point is such that we believe that we could bring in a part-time fitness instructor to cover some of those classes. So they would be working when there are classes that have participants. So this is not a staff member who will sit there when there's nothing to do, but we believe there's now enough interest for these kind of off-hour classes this fitness instructor would have the schedule to do.
In these programs, it stimulates revenue also, so that which kind of pays towards their salary.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're hopeful that it will stimulate enough interest to cover the salary.
Yes.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Pass the consent agenda. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Seconded, anybody? Seconded, Councilmember Toohey, thank you. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the city administrator update, Mr. Roby. Oh, public comment, I'm sorry.
I don't believe we have any. I recognize everyone in the room right now, and I believe they're all here for other issues.
Correct. Thank you, Councilmember Swarmer, for checking that. Moving on now to the city administrator update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few items here. First of all, I would echo what Chief Tiki mentioned about Officer Maxfeld. Just a wonderful individual who left us too soon, and would ask everyone to keep his family and friends in their hearts and minds. His services, as Chief Tiki mentioned, will be in Waconia Wednesday evening and then Thursday at 1 p.m. in Alexandria. A lot of people noticed maybe the middle tower, stuff at the dog park, got a much needed cleaning, so looks much nicer.
I did notice, it looks nice.
The neck beard is gone from it. No, it looks really good. And we do schedule semi-regular cleanings for those, but they're not inexpensive because it requires a specialized crew, a specialized, but it does look very nice. Last week, zoning administrator Nielsen and I had a great kickoff meeting with Brennan Construction. Brennan Construction, as you recall, is the signed purchase agreement with the school district to buy Park Elementary. We expect to have continued dialogue, but we had a very, very good, productive initial meeting. Lots of great ideas and very good conversations. So I look forward to more meetings with Brennan. I sent out an email, and I believe most everyone's responded. For the May 22nd meeting, we would like to host a work session to discuss the recreation facilities master plan, which has come to the point where the final report is being drafted right now. And while there will be no decisions made, no actions requested of council, we would like to share that with council at a public meeting, and the best way to do that is via a work session. So the proposal that that I've offered to council members is we would try to keep the regular business meeting on May 22nd relatively brief-ish. And then following the adjournment of that we would allow 60 to 90 minutes for a work session to look at the concepts and operational designs of the rec facilities master plan. This Wednesday morning, there's a retaining rural businesses workshop at MSU. I'm hoping to attend. It's a free work session offered out of Mankato. This Friday, there's a tour I'll be going on of the Hometown Bioenergy Facility here in the Sueur. There are some county commissioners who are interested in attending a tour, and so some representatives from the city will be joining in that tour.
What time is that at?
2 p.m. Friday. If there is anyone else who's interested in that, please let me know and I can make sure there's PPE for you. And then finally, just a couple of upcoming agenda items. First of all, I received a letter from the Sueur Baseball Association regarding the dedication of the press box to the late, great Mike Keenan. I expect this will be an agenda item on the May 22nd meeting. The association would like to honor Mr. Keenan by naming a press box in his memory. I mentioned Green Step Cities previously. I'll be working with City Clerk Lindsay Daney on that. She doesn't know it yet, but I'll be working with her on that to bring something forward to City Council. And then finally, really quickly, this is something I was aware of, but didn't realize it was. I knew it had a history in Le Sueur, but not as. I thought most of the history was done until I received a call from a citizen last week regarding racial covenants. So as some of you may be aware, there are racial covenants that have existed over time on properties. The city of Le Sueur was no different. There were subdivisions created in the 1940s and racial or discriminatory covenants were placed upon those properties. There is a not-for-profit organization that several Minnesota cities have begun working with called Just Deeds. And they provide free legal service to homeowners who would like to remove covenants from their properties. I'm having some conversations with the city attorney about what that process would look like and what council action would be required. And so I would anticipate bringing something forward to City Council at the May 22nd meeting for City Council to consider. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for our city administrator? If not, we will move on to the regular agenda for today, starting off with the 2023 Summer Ice Agreement.
Yes. So there's interest in using the ice arena during the summer. And normally, as you know, the community center does not keep the ice in the arena during the summer months because usually no one's using it. But during the summer of 2021 and the summer of 2022, an organization, 507 Hockey Camps, which is based out of St. Peter and affiliated to an extent with Bulldog Youth Hockey locally, offered a number of programs and skating opportunities for the local hockey community out of the community center. And this year, 507 Hockey Camps will not be participating, but Bulldog Youth Hockey would like to put the ice in. And as part of that agreement, as we've done in previous years, the city enters into essentially an escrow agreement with the other party so that the city can ensure that our operational expenses are covered for putting the ice in, and then they buy ice time. And as they buy ice time from us to cover those costs, anything that's left over at the end of the season, if we've sold more ice than our expenses, then they recover, then they can make some money. If not, then the city retains the escrow funds or whatever the balance of the escrow funds is so that we ensure that we meet our operational expenses. It works out really well for both the program because they're able to offer what they want. And Bulldog Youth they've already slated to purchase a bunch of ice for programs, youth hockey camps, youth skate. And then it works out well for us because it gives continued exposure. it's a space that's not utilized otherwise in the summer months. So if we can cover our operational expenses, it's a great way to utilize city facilities. So the proposal tonight is to direct me to execute the proposed agreement for this 2023 summer ice with Bulldog Youth Hockey Association.
Thank you. Any questions for city administrator regarding this matter? If not, I will, excuse me, entertain a motion. Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg, second by Councilmember Sullivan. Any discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the approved Veterans Memorial Project engineering scope and fee. We have several members here of this committee tonight, and I'm excited to hear from you. Mr. Roby, you want to introduce them?
I would, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll bring them all up in a second or two. Real quick summary. So for those who were on the council back in 2022, as part of the host plan of the city's parks, open spaces, and trails master plan, a new augmented Veterans Memorial was considered. And a task force was convened in 2022. 3 of the members are here tonight to look at some concepts. The concepts are included in the packet, and to take the existing Veterans Memorial, which was placed in the late 80s, and move it to a new location, give it a more dedicated space, and then add some robustness to it that focuses on the various services and allow people to do what a lot of other memorials allow, which is to put a name on. Right now, the focus is on our killed in action from the local area. The idea here is to be able to expand upon that and dedicate a more hallowed space for it than we have right now. And so there is one specific request tonight for City Council. So we've moved beyond the concept space, and we've been fortunate to have City Engineer Corey Beanfang and the team from Bolton Mank really working closely with our task force and city staff to build the concepts to get to a place where the task force is comfortable with the way it looks, how it feels, that it accommodates what they want to accommodate. And the next step in this is really to really build the engineering plan behind it. That's building material, topo survey, the whole 9 yards, so that ultimately the task force has the information they can take out to a bidding process to a contractor to build this. So the city did apply for a grant through the Minnesota Department of Administration, which is a $25,000 grant. It's $12,500 grant, and the match is $12,500. And this would go immediately toward this engineering, so we can get to the point where we're ready to contract the work out, grab the space, move the monument, and expand beyond it. And we do have Engineer Beanfang here tonight. Before I ask for formal council action to approve the submitted engineering scope and fee for this project from Bolton Mank, I would invite Mr. Beanfang, if there's anything you'd like to add. If there's nothing you can, that's fine, you don't have to.
I have nothing to add, but I'd be happy to entertain questions or.
Okay. Otherwise, I will introduce, we've got Terry Johnson, Mr. John T. May, and Shannon Frost here, representing BFW and Legion. And they are serving as a task force. So they are the heart and soul behind this project. The city is here to help with logistics and but design, heart, soul, fundraising for this project. Really, this is their monument. It's for them and their colleagues in service. So we're just here to help move the project along. It will ultimately reside on city park space, but that's really kind of the extent of it. So I do want to show the website that's been launched, but I would invite Terry, John, or Shannon if there's anything you'd like to share about the project.
I'd just like to add, Corey has been tremendously helpful. I am completely clueless with this project. Puddings and technical terms I've never dealt with, but we didn't realize, I don't think there was a lot of how big of lettering do we want for an individual's name? And do we want to have years of service or their era? You know, do we want 3 lines? Do we want 2 lines? How big? It's crazy. And so Corey from Bolton Mank has really done a good job and really invested in what we're doing, which makes it so much more fun. I don't believe he's just doing an engineering job. I believe he's really invested, but we field tripped out to McGraw Monument, you know, and talking about what color stones and so I think maybe we got some fun ideas that he'll come up with in his final plan that kind of ties it all together and makes it even more special. But if anyone has any more specific questions, let me know.
Thank you, Shannon. I just want to tell you that I appreciate you involving not just lost veterans, but all veterans in this project. And there's a sheet I noticed in there where veterans can have a brick put in there with their name. And I think that's a good way to include all veterans. And just on a side note, I happened to stumble out to McGraw's. I was out there for some other business, and you guys are out there looking at stones and things, and I looked at the plans again with you. It's exciting, and I like the thought of bringing this monument or this memorial more front and center for the community to enjoy. So thank you for your work on that. Anybody else?
Mayor Kirby, just ask a question quickly. I think reading this correctly in our notes provided, I think, is it correct, Bolton Mank is providing these services at up to date, please? So I just reached out and appreciate all of you guys' work on this project along with the support of Bolton and Mank, and a deep gratitude for your partnership here.
Thank you. So real quick, Mr. Mayor, I will just point out for the public, and we've got the paper here, this website is live on the city's website. It's live. The communications director, Lawrence, launched today in consultation with the task force. Under the Our Community banner. For heaven's sake. Pay no attention to the band behind me. Our Community, and then under projects is the 2023 Veterans Memorial, and it brings you to this page. And this page has a donation form. All the donations will go to a fund that is managed by the VFW and Legion. The city is not managing this. We are serving as a promotion for the VFW and Legion. And then there's a memorial name and stone form on the website as well. Check money order can be mailed to the Veterans Memorial Project, which is their own PO box, and then it shows all the concepts and plans and everything as they exist today. Which is very exciting. So this is live, and if there are questions about this, certainly there is an email address, lsvetmemorial@gmail.com, where questions about donations of the project, but certainly if there are questions about the project or how to donate, they can absolutely stop into City Hall or call down, and anyone in City Hall can answer questions as well. But we're very excited to move forward with this and bring forward a proposal here from Bolton Mank for the next phase of the project, which is scope and fee. And we would, at this time, I guess I would formally request council action on that.
Your motion is before you all there to approve Bolton Mank engineering scope and fee for the Veterans Memorial Project. Do I have a motion? So moved. Thank you, Councilmember Huntington, second by Councilmember Sullivan. Any other comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you, veterans. Moving on to resolution R 2023-021, sale of city-owned property. Mr. Williams, you want to review this one?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council will recall there was a closed session following the last meeting in regards to this. Parcel 21.999.0120, which is located just in between what is the Sueur Family Dental and the parking lot that is used primarily by the Sueur Police Department, just on the 200 block of South 2nd Street. For years, this lot has been utilized primarily by the dental office. I would hedge a bet that a lot of community members believe it is currently owned by the Sueur Family Dental business. It is in need of some pretty significant repairs and improvements, and for several months now, we've been in conversation with a potential buyer for the lot who's willing to make those and interested in making those improvements and upgrades. So in your packet, there is a proposed purchase agreement, which was drafted by the city's attorney. The city staff do not recognize any future public utility in the city further or continuing to own this property. Of note in the specific resolution is, so when the city does convey property, it would be normal if there was a planning commission for the planning commission to review that first, and city council required the planning commission review. In this case, city staff and city attorney have reviewed, given the property itself, given the fact that it's already in the downtown business district, given its future use, we do not see a need for the planning commission to review this sale prior to city council review. And so the proposed resolution tonight not only directs me and the city attorney to pursue the closure of this sale of this property, but also dispenses with planning commission review.
Thank you. Any questions for city administrator? If not, I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution. I'm not going to read it all. It's in front of you. R 2023-021. I'll give you a moment to read it. Thank you, Councilmember Sueur. Thank you, Councilmember, was it Sullivan or Tui? Thank you. I'm looking the wrong way. Any other comments considered? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to resolution R 2023-019, approve assessment vacations of 901 Ferry Street. Mr. Williams, will review that with us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the part that Ron Snowden and Dave Maroney have waited so eagerly for. Ron and Dave are part of the are leaders of the school district's consulting design team for the new elementary school. So item 8D on the agenda tonight is the first of 3 items that are specifically related to the new elementary school to be constructed at the intersection of Kingsway and Ferry. And this is at the May 2023 council meeting. Public hearing was held. It was actually held at the April 24th city council meeting. So I apologize, there's a typo here. This was held as a public hearing at the last city council meeting to consider the vacation of 2 different public easements that exist on the property currently. These easements are have been identified as having no longer public utility, public use. One is currently vacant. It's an electric easement. It has not been utilized as far as we can tell. And the second is an easement, a public utilities easement that's currently utilized for water and wastewater mains, which will be relocated as part of the project. And a new easement covering the new relocated water and sewer mains is proposed in the development agreement, which is item 8F. So the district has agreed to or support the vacation of these 2 easements. City council did hold a public hearing where no comments were received on the vacation of these easements. The electric easement is the one on the top of your screen, 20 feet, traversing the entirety of the property from west to east, and the water and sewer easement on the bottom right corner. So tonight, action request is a motion to adopt resolution R 2023-019, approving the vacation of these 2 easements. And what I would say just for a point of clarity, the easements will be formally vacated once they've been recorded. The intent is, in particular with the water and sewer easement, is not to record that and formally vacate them until the utilities have been moved, which at whatever point in the project they're done and in place. We would leave the easements in place, but this just gives approval for city staff to record these easement vacations when the project's ready.
Any questions from any council members?
Joey, just a point of clarification on that map, where that top one, whereabouts does that run in the contrary to the school? Is that like the parking lot on the backside?
And then the new school, or
Yeah, where's it currently run?
Parking lot.
So, yeah, so it runs through the southern tennis court and then across
Okay. Like
part
basically
of the parking
on
lot.
top of the
And
building.
then, yes,
Very much.
around to where the alternate entrance of the community center used to be, the old bridge.
That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going for that.
Haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah, you've been on a few times, students, I bet.
Actually, again, there it is, about, I'm trying to motion to adopt resolution R 2023-019, approving the vacation of 2 easements as described at 901.
So
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Swanberg. Any other comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to resolution R 2023-02, approve the Sueur Henderson new elementary school conditional use permit and site plans. Mr. Roby.
Yes, as you recall from the last meeting, City Planner Nate Sparks was here to share, give an overview of this agenda. So this is simply a regurgitation effectively of what Mr. Sparks shared with council at the last meeting. Effectively, the school parcel currently is zoned public institutional. For that zone, a conditional use permit can be applied for, which, if approved, grants a planned unit development or can grant a planned unit development. With a project of this scope and size, a planned unit development is beneficial to both the city and the party applying for the permit because they can have a little bit more flexibility in design standards and things like that. So that's what we recommended to the district. The district applied for a conditional use permit to allow for a PUD at this site, primarily for 2 reasons. One is current zoning code and BI doesn't allow for 2 principal structures to exist on 1 single parcel. Here, the planned unit development, the recommendation from staff and the planning commission is that this is acceptable because there are lots of good reasons in this case why 2 principal structures from a district standpoint make sense in 1 parcel instead of making the district divide, carve out a property line in between the 2 buildings. They're going to share some natural flow and things like that. And secondly, it allows some flexibility in their design around building materials and their landscaping. And so that the planning commission reviewed it. There's a lot of words I can find. I apologize for that. More than I care to put on usually. Planning commission held a public hearing last month and they reviewed the conditional use permit and site plan as submitted by the district. Planning commission did vote unanimously to recommend to city council that they approve the site plan and conditional use permit as approved. So tonight's action is effectively to vote on whether or not to take the planning commission's recommendation. Planning commission, what they do is they review a conditional use permit, they look through absolutely everything, and then they have to find some findings of fact, which are reasons to support this, right? Or reasons why it doesn't support planned unit development, and then they have to document those findings of fact. So there are 7 in particular that they cited. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. The proposed use is compatible with present and future land uses. It's conforms generally with all performance standards within the zoning ordinance. It's generally consistent with all the PI zoning ordinance. Traffic generation is within the capabilities of the current streets, and it meets the definitions of a planned unit development. So again, planning commission voted to recommend this to city council for approval. This is once this action is taken, then we'll move on to item 8F to look at the development agreement. And all 3 of these pieces kind of tie together because the development agreement in 8F also cites the conditional use permit. And I do have these are all the same slides, but this is the current campus as it sits right now. Except there's no fencing around Bering Fields anymore, as of last Friday. And the new building. some side views of the building. This is one of the, again, the house on the right-hand side. We're gonna say that's Councilmember Huntington's house. So if he's looking to the west at the new building, this is what he would see. Kingsway Drive is about in the middle there. There'll be an ornamental guardrail on the retaining wall that overlooks the building. This is what it looks like from the east. And the percentages, as Mr. Sparks pointed out last time, one of the things that the zoning code is pretty specific about is building materials. So we don't want someone building a house out of exotech, elite PVC fabric. At least I'm not sure that I would want to. Planning Commission have to review that, so I shouldn't say that as a blanket statement. But we probably, Planning Commission would not want someone to build a home in a residential neighborhood out of PVC fabric. However, it is considered an acceptable building material for gymnasiums and athletic structures. And it makes up 28% of the overall structures, building exterior structure. Landscaping plan, lots of new plantings. So for AE, staff is requesting that City Council adopt resolution number 2023-020, approving their conditional use permit and site plan as submitted.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Roby? If not, he just read the motion. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Schleter. Second by Councilmember. Thank you. All those in favor? Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the Sueur Henderson New Elementary School Development Agreement. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So rounding out our trifecta of new elementary school agenda items is the development agreement. So when there's a significant new development in a community, the city has in recent history looked to a development agreement between the developer and the city, ultimately to protect both the developer's interests and obligations and also the city's, to protect the city's interests, both during the project and also reference some protections that will stay in place for the long term. And with the new elementary school, so low context, the most recent planned unit or development agreement that the city entered into was with Common Bond for the Meadows 2 project on Grove Street that addressed things like the site plan and stormwater maintenance and securities and things like that. So we worked with the city attorney and lots of conversations with the district and the design team on a development agreement here. It's a unique circumstance because it's another public entity, right? And it's not a private developer coming in to build the structure. It's an existing developer in our community, one with whom we have a very strong existing partnership. But they're building a really significant addition to the campus here in town. So there's some key components that we wanted to ensure that were in place, that were understood between the district and the city before the project got kicked off. Included in that are the vacation of the current easements, which has been addressed tonight in item 8D. Establishment of new public easements. So all those public easements in the 97-page document, the majority of that is easement language for the new easements that will be established over the mainly public utilities. Agreement upon required fees. So there are fees for water access connections, sewer access connections when you build a new structure in town, whether it's a residential property or it's a large development. There is a formula that the city utilizes to calculate what that amount would be. And so dollars and cents are pretty important to agree upon. So we have those defined here in the development agreement. Maintenance of new and updated stormwater facilities. So what you see in plans is that the stormwater facilities, we're adding a lot of impervious surface here, really changing the landscape of the entire east and southeastern corner of this this property. And the design team in the district had put a lot of time into the stormwater plan here. And in fairness, that guy has two crazy things. And the city staff spending a lot of time looking at this and working with the district collaboratively. And what's the best long-term solution to stormwater maintenance? So we really wanted to key in on long-term beyond the, when this project is done, 5, 10, 15 years ago, how are we going to maintain this stormwater? Because it's going to be there's going to be a lot of runoff into the stormwater system. How can we ensure that that's properly maintained? Whose obligation is what during for the maintenance of that? Protection of existing public assets during the project. It seems simple, and I don't believe anyone's going to purposely wreck a sidewalk or break a water main or something. But if something were to happen, this just ensures that public assets are brought back to their current state if they would be damaged during the course of the project. And then assurance that the project will generally adhere to submitted and approved plans. And that's the site plans that were just approved. The development agreement just says, hey, you've got to generally abide by those that are either going to be approved conditional use site plan submission. So this is the subject of a lot of conversation between city staff and district staff, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. The school board did vote last Friday. They held a special meeting to consider the agreement, and they voted 5-0 to approve the agreement in its current form. And so now that the district has approved, it comes to city council for consideration, and staff recommendation at this time is to approve entering into the proposed development agreement as presented. And then, one quick thing before you ask for a motion. Next steps, should this be approved, Cross Anderson, who's the general contractor, project manager for the school district, they've already set up their trailer to the west of the tennis courts and south this morning. They're ready to go. They came in last week and they pulled a grading permit from Justin Nielsen. If this is approved, I suspect they'll be at Justin's desk tomorrow morning to get that approved grading permit. The grading permit then is the trigger that allows them to start all of the work that's included in all of this. They are ready and eager to go, and they will be having a formal groundbreaking May 19th. May 19th, right? Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for our city administrator? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve entering into the proposed development agreement with Sueur Henderson School for the new elementary school construction project at 901 Prairie Street.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan.
Second.
Councilmember Cooney. Thank you. Any other discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the agenda item that was just added recently. Mr. Robium, I'll let you take us down this road. The IUOE Local 49 contract MOU. You can tell me what all that means.
Yes, so
Oh,
yes, the IUOE is the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 49. That's the union that represents our public works, most of our public services staff. So it's public works, water, wastewater, and electric. And there have been conversations back and forth between the union and staff over the last few months about potentially altering the summer hours for our public works staff. Right now, public works staff work Monday through Friday, essentially 9 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, and then 4 hours on Friday. During the summer, from a city standpoint, so our public works manager, Scott Schrader, was previously over in the city of St. Peter, and they enacted something similar during the summer months with public works staff. Because of the uniqueness of the projects they work on during the summer, it actually works out, we think, to the community's benefit to have them on a 4-10 schedule. it's hard on a Friday morning, you know, if all of a sudden the sun's out and you gotta go and you're working on curb or you're working on potholes. And you've only got the guys for 4 hours because they've used the rest of the time earlier in the week. You know, you can bring them in and do overtime and that kind of thing, but from a project standpoint, it makes some sense to do 410s. The union was interested in trialing this. The memorandum of understanding, the MOU, is specific that it doesn't set precedent. We would merely be looking to trial this for May through September of this summer. And at any point, if either party decides that it's not working out operationally, financially, or functionally for the union, either party is allowed to leave the MOU.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yes, to vote on. Thank you. So the recommendation from staff tonight is to approve the MOU. The union did vote on this in the language that was provided for in the packet, and it passed. So the final step here is council approval. I'm eager to try it out and see how it goes. It's a lot of long days in the summertime, but our manager of that department believes it ultimately will be a benefit to us. Any questions?
I do.
Mr. Toomey.
You say most of the people are members of the union in this department. Okay, scenario, it's 6 a.m. on Friday morning and a water main breaks. The way I read this, anybody that shows up is getting paid time and a half.
So it's specific to public works staff. So there are 4 members of the public works
Okay,
department.
and that's what I was, yeah. What is public works?
It's
Specific.
It's a good question. So public works is, we think of them mainly as streets and parks.
Okay,
Okay, so that's separate from, we have 3 unique departments that are part of this. Water and wastewater manage all of our water and wastewater infrastructure. So if in your scenario, water main break would not apply
okay,
here.
fair enough.
So this is,
These are the guys that cut the grass.
yes, this is maintenance the streets, our street maintenance, our curb patching, sidewalk repair,
So there's nothing,
watering, mowing.
nothing that would fall under their purview that might be considered an emergency.
Likely not.
Okay.
What would be the worst case scenario? That was my question too. On Friday, what's the worst thing that could happen?
The worst thing that can happen would be, it has rained for 3 straight weeks and we have not been able to get out mowing. And all of a sudden Friday morning, it dries up and the sun comes out. But we also have seasonal laborers in the public works department who will be doing a lot of our mowing. Primarily because we can hire seasonals to mow and compensate them at seasonal labor rates versus operator rates. So,
You don't have any trouble with the union doing that?
no, they are very eager to try this.
No.
Oh, from pulling in seasonals?
Taking union work.
Well, if it's seasonals doing work that would be assigned to them, to the seasonals, then I don't anticipate an issue.
Okay.
We,
Go ahead.
I think to answer your question, Mike, we've had seasonal.
I know, I mean, it's always surprised me because I didn't even know we had a union until I got here.
No, it's never been an issue in the past.
Yeah. And then I assume that supervisors are not allowed to mow grass, for example.
The non-union,
Right.
so they can,
Okay.
we have one full-time non-union member of the public works department, and that's Scott Schrader. And he will do anything that the guys need help doing. Then
My concern.
I know what your question is.
Yeah, I didn't get public service. I didn't know what that was. I should have.
Yes,
for that
so this is
definition.
the electric department and the water wastewater department are exempt. This is specific to.
So the grass might get a little long or be a little bit extra dirt in the street.
Potentially, yes, we might not be street sweeping, but we think with the weather, this it'll generally work out better than to have this kind of funky 4-hour shift hanging on the end of the week when it's,
That sounds to me to be reasonable.
What are the hours on the 4 9-hour days, start to finish?
right now.
Yeah.
They are on 7 to 5. No, 7 to 4. 7 to 4:30 with a half-hour unpaid lunch. 7 to 4:30 each day. So what we're doing is we're bumping this half an hour earlier.
See that being a problem anywhere in the city for residents with the work that they do?
No, probably what it does, if anything, is it gives them a half an hour to get equipment ready, get out to sites, get the cold, hot mix or cold, whatever they're using for those projects, and not be in anyone's business any earlier. If you hear any differently, please let me know.
Yeah, if I'm on my lawn at 6:30, I'm gonna hear some complaints from my neighbors.
I guess I got one other question, Joe. So you're saying they'll work 6:30 to 4:30? After paid lunch?
Yes.
And that's current? That's what we're currently doing?
No, it'll be a half an hour. It'll be a half an hour paid lunch, which will constitute their 2 15-minute.
And that meets standard federal and states.
It does for that period of time what we are required to provide for paid breaks. It's a very short break. I don't know that I would necessarily want that, but
I
mean, they're still allowed called casual bio breaks during the day. Between 6:30 and whenever they take their lunch.
That would be my first concern is, are you still gonna get the amount of quality work in a 10-hour day that you would? And I didn't realize it was the 9-hour and 4 hours, so an hour more isn't.
The reason I question is that, I spend a lot of time looking at schedules, right, in government. We actually just looked at these and we still are required to provide a 30-minute lunch and a 2 15-minute break. So I'm just curious how the city is under the federal standards, how the city skirts that.
So
along with, obviously restroom breaks fall outside of them.
So we could technically still provide a half an hour unpaid lunch. It would just extend the day, or they could take that 30 minutes.
Right, but what I'm saying is we're under federal standards, we were mandated to provide the lunch break. Plus you're required to give the 2 15-minute breaks for every 4 hours. And that's where your half-hour lunch break comes in, is because you're going past the 8-hour shift. So for every 4 hours under federal standards, you have to provide a 15-minute break.
Yes.
Duty-free break.
Yes.
So that's where I'm questioning if we're working 10-hour, how are we complementing that? Looking at this, we're losing 4 hours on Friday, gaining a half an hour, 4 days a week, which is 2 hours. So we're going from an extra 4 hours of work. You could look at it that way, 4 hours on Friday to 2 hours of additional time is what I'm getting at. And so I'm questioning how we're fitting that into our schedule.
So the federally required breaks do fit into the 10-hour plan. We provide them as part of each of those 10-hour days. The amount of paid time ultimately that's provided is not changing.
But what I'm getting at is we're losing 2 hours of working time by going to the schedule. If you're figuring in break time.
The math would agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, you're saying 7 to 4:30 previously. Now you're going
With
6:30 to
half an hour
4:30.
unpaid lunch.
So 7 to 4 is 8 hours.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
See,
So
that's what I was missing.
It's a half an hour unpaid lunch currently. And so what they're gonna do is take the 2 15s and that will become their lunch break. And so it'll be 40 paid hours under the current model, and 40 paid hours under the new model. It's just putting it all into 4 days.
I can't do the math.
Instead of 5 days.
I still think we're losing 2 hours, but of working time by doing this. We are. I do think we are.
Because you were.
So in 4 days, you have 2 hours that are being paid that they are not working.
No,
2 hours out of all.
Right now, currently you are.
You're saying that a
Yeah.
2-hour day.
50-minute breaks,
No,
2 15-minute breaks for
then
a
a
half
half
an
hour
hour,
unpaid
right?
lunch.
half an hour unpaid lunch.
Now, this proposal would go to a half an hour paid lunch, correct?
Which constitutes their 2 15-minute breaks.
And I think that's where it's gonna get sticky though, and that's what I was getting at, I think they could,
Well, okay,
well,
I see.
So we're paying for 2 hours worth of paid breaks right now.
2 15s.
Yes, 2 15s each
Yeah.
day. That's what they would get under the new model as well.
Yeah.
What they are foregoing is an unpaid lunch.
right, but that's what I'm getting, so what I was, back to my initial question, do the federal standards meet does this half an hour break constitute, because in other functionalities, does not constitute your 15-minute breaks.
The city attorney and the unit
Okay,
attorney.
that-
is acceptable.
Thank you, that's in my answer.
Yes,
So it would be in compliance.
correct.
Given the fact that we're seeing this tonight and it is May 8th, would they consider running this from June through September? Or is there some reason why we got it tonight and it needs to be done tonight?
We made a management decision to start it last week. Because per the current agreement, we can, as long as it's agreed upon by the union members and management, we can modify regular working hours. And so it was modified starting last week because of the timing of the union vote, which was not going to be in time for the April meeting. The reason for starting it in May is that most, and running through September, is May through September is the primary summer duty month so we brought on seasonal employees the first week of May. And we usually keep seasonal employees, at least some of them, through September. So whether it's watering, mowing, trimming, street projects, usually start the first week of May. And they did last week. So the idea would be to follow what the seasonal schedule, generally what the seasonal schedule would be in the summer project schedule, which would be May through September.
Then the intent would be to go back for the balance of the year to the current schedule.
Correct.
And this same cycle in perpetuity, would that be voted on, or is this a one and done?
This is a one and done. This is a trial because the city wanted to try it and the union on their own volition wanted to try it. If this works really well for either party can work to negotiate it into the next agreement where there would be specific summer hours. But the city would not propose doing this year round for mainly following reasons, and weather reasons. The schedule would be very challenging.
I guess that would be a worst case scenario, a May snowstorm.
Yes.
Get on that.
It's happened.
I know.
Yes, so this is very much a trial, and that's why both parties agreed to write into it that if either party wants to back out, all we need is 7 days notice.
Would you anticipate any other department making this request?
I can anticipate other departments perhaps making the request, but I can anticipate the city not being as eager to try it out with other departments, mainly because the other departments require lots of
hands-on 24 hours.
They're hands-on, they're doing, water and wastewater checks, even on the weekends, they're doing daily rounds with things, and the electric department's, similar. Public Works, just given the nature of their work and how it changes in the summer months is unique in that way.
And who is going to grade this? In other words, it's October 1st. How do we know whether it's successful? What criteria are to be used to judge whether it's worked?
So our Public Works Manager has a very detailed schedule by employee, by day, through almost the entirety of the summer. And in that is included all the work that they likely will be asked to do. So it's, these two guys will work on these sidewalks for these few days. And one of the more objective ways that we can measure it is at the end of the season, say, all right, this was our initial plan. This is all the work we thought we would get through. How did that go? Another measurement might be, how many times did we end up having to call people in on a Friday to deal with things? Is it more than we normally had to call them in on a Friday afternoon in previous summers? Or is it about the same given, there was some emergency that, again, I can't foresee, but could happen. And was the quality of work overall estimated to be as good or similar?
And the judge would be you?
I would look for a recommendation from the Public Works Manager.
Somebody's got to make a call.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we'll do is, I throughout the summer, I'll be visiting with Scott, and Scott at City Hall very regularly, and we text about all kinds of stuff. So,
So he's got his own list of expectations and goals, and at the end of the year, he'll kind of evaluate that and report back to you.
yeah, and I suspect the union will as well. So the union contract runs for December 31st of this year, and depending on how this summer goes, the union may be in a position where they say, yeah, we don't want that in the next contract. That was too much, or the longer weekends were nice, but holy smokes, by Thursday, you're real beat. Or they could say, yeah, we maybe like to do this, and then that becomes, negotiations for you going forward. But this is unique to this department, given the type of work that they do in the summer and the type of projects that they're working on. They're mobilizing equipment, they're not, or helping the electric department tree trim, or they're doing hot mix, and if the weather is really right, man, they just got to pound through 10 hours of just filling potholes. It's a longer stretches when they're mobilizing early in the morning, and they can crank it out all day. It's ultimately probably more efficient.
How many people are we talking about?
4.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the MOU with the IUOE Local 49 temporary modified Public Works Department regular working hours.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan, seconded by Councilmember Schleter. You got something?
I would just like to add one more point on this, which is that there has been discussion within the city and union about interest in perhaps looking at the union, which is, again, consists of 3 distinct departments under one union, potentially having separate contracts going forward, given the nature of their work and the differences between the work that they do. And so, their business agent and I continue to have conversations around what the future of that means. So it's not impossible to expect that in the future, for example, Public Works might have their very own contract, which unions could do.
Thank you. Reiterating what we just did, there was a motion by, I think, Councilmember Sullivan, seconded by Councilmember Schleter. Any discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the last item, the review of the Sueur Medical Center escrow agreement and debt update. Mr. Roby, you want to caught up to speed on that, please?
Yes. This one is as hot off the press as it can get. I was sharing with Councilmember Schleter before the meeting that this final agreement, final draft of it came in a little after 4 o'clock this afternoon with much anticipation. So as Stacy Lee from Ridgeview referenced earlier, there is a 2010 lease that was updated in 2017 between the city and, at the time, Minnesota Valley Health Center, which still is legally Minnesota Valley Health Center is operating or doing business as Ridgeview Sueur Medical Center. So in 2010, Minnesota Valley Health Center was looking at doing some large capital projects. As part of that, they reached an agreement with the city wherein the city would issue bonds, which is on the left side of your screen, hospital portion, which is city-owned debt. And then the clinic, which was being constructed, would receive funding through the EDA, which would borrow money. Now, the land on which the hospital and clinic currently sit has been owned by the city of Sueur since time immemorial, since originally Minnesota Valley Memorial Hospital was constructed. And over time, the relationship between the hospital and the healthcare campus in the city has varied from the city managing all the capital dollars for the hospital. There was a time in not too distant future where the hospital would want to make a capital investment and they would need to ask the city's permission to do it. And their CFO would write a letter down here to Rick Almick and say, hey, Rick, I need some cash because I need to buy some stuff. The city maintained that money. So these lease agreements for the land itself, for the property, have changed over time depending on what the healthcare situation looks like, the stability of the healthcare market, and the overall health of the healthcare campus itself. So in 2010, this lease for the property itself was redone. And it was structured such that the Minnesota Valley Health Center would be the recipient of this conduit financing, $5.5 million from the city, almost $5 million from the EDA to do lots of capital improvements, build a clinic, do lots of cool things in the hospital. This is the project that got rid of the old ambulance garage on the front side, got rid of the lobby and built a brand new lobby, expanded, turned the clinic into outpatient suites, things like that. And so as part of this lease, the city agreed that when the debt was satisfied on the property, the MVHC had the option to purchase the land. And the agreement was such that the purchase price itself would be the satisfaction of the debt. So what Ridgeview has now done, Minnesota Valley has done, is they've paid very little or nothing for the land itself over the years. The city has maintained it with a vested interest in maintaining a strong healthcare campus in the community. And Ridgeview pays, the city pays the property taxes, Ryan Graff cuts a check to the county, pays property taxes, and sends a bill up to Ridgeview. Ridgeview reimburses the city for the property taxes. The debt that's on it, $5.5 million and the $2.5 million, the city and the EDA receive invoices from those bondholders. The hospital debt's maintained by First Farmers. The clinic debt with the EDA is maintained by Wells Fargo. Our finance director gets invoices from First Farmers and Wells Fargo. He cuts a check from the city and EDA, and every month Ridgeview cuts a check back to the city and EDA for that amount. Ultimately, the goal is for the city and the EDA to come out completely whole, paying net nothing, owing net nothing. It was just a less expensive way for Minnesota Valley to borrow money back in 2010 using conduit financing. The same reason, like Ben Nielsen said, right now, with interest rates going up, it's cheaper for Ridgeview to use the city of Chaska to borrow money, and then they'll do the same thing with Chaska. Chaska takes out the debt, but Ridgeview is obligated to pay Chaska for that debt. So back in late February, mid-February, the city attorney and I were contacted by Ridgeview And they expressed an interest in satisfying both debts on this property and triggering the option to acquire the property free and clear for the first time. And the reason for this at the time wasn't publicly known, but Stacy Lee discussed it tonight. It was involved the nursing home. So they have now finalizing a long-term lease with Sueur of Sueur, which will manage and oversee the nursing home. They will share some spaces, but in order to execute that contract, they need the land free and clear, because ultimately they're going to, this may come forward to city council in a future meeting, but condominiumize the property where they create a separate parcel that Sueur will lease over the course of several years and ultimately have an option to purchase. And Ridgeview will maintain ownership over the rest of the parcel. So in order to bring in an outside firm to manage the nursing home long-term and ensure its long-term stability and viability, they needed to clean up the debt on the property. And they had cash to do it. And so they said, we will pay off the debt. For First Farmers, we'll pay off the debt to Wells Fargo. City and EDA will be free and clear. We'll exercise our option and we'll close on the property. The key thing here is that there is one action item tonight that's requested. And I'll get into that in a second. But from a nuts and bolts agreement standpoint, there's nothing the council needs to do. This agreement was signed back in 2010. It was modified slightly in 2016, 2017, when Ridgeview came in and partnered with Minnesota Valley to ensure that Ridgeview was the partner listed, and they changed ISJ's name to Ridgeview on the clinic and all that stuff. But there's no action the council can take or needs to take for Ridgeview to exercise this option. This is the agreement that was signed in 2010. It's effectively a done deal. The one thing that we need council action on is an escrow agreement. So the Wells Fargo debt, which is with the EDA, you can pay that off at any time. You just cut them a check for the balance of the principal amount, debt's satisfied, and you're done. The hospital debt, $5.5 million that was bonded through First Farmers for the hospital, can only be paid off on a payment date. And those payments are made in March and September. So while we can close on the option, the purchase option, and satisfy the Wells Fargo debt for the EDA, we can't technically pay off the First Farmers debt until September 17th. So what Ridgeview would like to do is set up an escrow account where after the closing, the funds to pay off the balance of the First Farmers debt will be sent to the city. Council is being asked tonight to adopt resolution R 2023-022, which directs me, with the mayor's signature as well, to enter into an escrow agreement to take these funds, put them into an escrow fund. They'll sit there and earn interest until September 17th, where we will dump them into First Farmers, pay off the rest of the hospital land. But the closing will effectuate the option. So that's the action that's requested tonight. Again, there's nothing that council can do to change the option. And I don't think there's anything that the city should do, even if there were the option. I think from our discussions at a staff level with Ridgeview about Sueur and the relationship with the nursing home, I think it's probably is in the best interest of the nursing home long-term to have a partner who has experience in long-term care. Our nursing home here in town is Ridgeview's only nursing home. They are very good at acute care and emergency care and surgical and outpatient. This is their one nursing home. And they found a partner they believe can keep the nursing home not only running, but thriving in our community. It serves a very important purpose. Like Stacy said, it keeps a lot of our folks here in town who otherwise would go to a center, or, who knows where. So they have this partnership. In order to get that partnership sealed up, they need to pay out this debt. And so I believe that it's a good thing ultimately.
The city gets to keep the interest in the escrow account?
It's,
Or is it prorated where they
Well,
put
it
in
is.
98 cents and then by the time you fill it out, it's a full dollar?
yes, they're finalizing the amount that they're putting in right now. So the agreement draft is simply a draft at this point. So we do have some funds. So this is another twist, which Councilmember Williams will probably remember. So when the city borrowed all this money, $5.5 million, they put it in an escrow fund of First Farmers and said, all right, First Farmers is gonna hold it. The hospital, MVHC is gonna request reimbursement. So, okay, we gotta pay Dell's Construction because Henry came in and did a bunch of cool stuff. So then they write a letter to Keith Metzel, who was the president of First Farmers at the time, and say, okay, Keith, the hospital needs $500,000. Keith, right, removes money from the escrow fund. Gets to the hospital pays their contractors. So at the end of the project, there was a little over $100,000 left. Project was done. There was no need to spend any more money, hundreds of $1,000s. MVHC at the time said, let's not use that to pay out any of the principal right now. Let's keep that in a city account until the very end of the loan. And then we'll use that payment to pay off, to make part of the last payment. I'm not going to exercise judgment on that right now, but it did add some complexity to this right now. Yeah, I'm not going to make that judgment because I have a lot of respect for people who set that up. But holy smokes, it makes it a little more complicated now because the city's been holding hundreds of $1,000s that technically associated with this debt. So we will put those funds, we'll close out that account, and put those funds toward paying off the remaining balance, and the escrow will pay the remaining balance of this. Ridgeview will pay all the fees associated with the closing, all the title company, everything else that's theirs because it's their choice to pay off the debt early.
Wow, that's a lot of information.
It was a complex event.
So we're not even getting into the subleases. I mean, the clinic is owned by land is owned by the city, which subleases to the EDA. EDA then subleases it back to the city, who then leases it to Ridgeview, who then leases part of it to the clinic.
With that, any other questions for our city administrator? Otherwise, I will accept the motion to adopt resolution R 2023-022, directing the mayor and the city administrator enter to a proposed escrow agreement with Ridgeview Medical Center.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan.
Second.
Councilmember Williams, thank you. Any other discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to reports and items of appreciation. Council members, this is your opportunity to share what's going on in the community, what's going on with your commissions, and as always, we'll start with Councilmember Huntington.
I've got nothing for tonight, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Schneider.
On the 26th, I had a Sueur County officials meeting, and on May 4th, a Climate Smart Municipalities meeting, and I briefed Administrator Roby on discussions in both meetings. Planning Commission meeting coming up on Thursday. That's it.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Sullivan.
Nothing to report tonight, other than we got a transit meeting 2:30 tomorrow up at the Joint Services Building, and then just send my condolences to Mike Phelps' family and his previous coworkers.
Thank you. Councilmember Swanberg.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing from Councilmember Swanberg. Councilmember Tui.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing either there. So Councilmember Williams.
Nothing to report, but just remind people about the hazardous waste collection that's coming up. There's an opportunity to get rid of your spray paint. May
Is that the
11th,
public works job?
Oh, sure.
No.
12 days, we're gonna do that Thursday.
It's a huge deal because it doesn't always come here. Sometimes it's Nicollet County, sometimes it's Sibley County, sometimes it's the center when it's here. It's actually in town. Big bands.
And I'm sure that's on our website.
Yes, thank you.
And on Facebook today. Yeah.
Is it Thursday?
Yeah.
I have nothing to share, other I want to echo what Councilmember Sullivan brought up. Officer Phelps, his funeral will be later this week. We want to extend our condolences to his family and to our police department also. So with that, I will entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Huntington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.